there's more to say about bias, because bias is so subtle and yet so ubiquitous. There's one huge way in which we are definitely biased, and that's that we are speaking English. The things we say will be subtly influenced by the history of the English language and the history of England. The point being, the idea of evolution came before Charles Darwin, and there were other people who came up with the idea, and Charles Darwin just happened to speak English and just happened to write a book about it which explained it more, in which they are considered indigenous. Horses all came from the old world, which is like Europe and Asia, and no horses were in North and South America when Europeans got there until they brought them. Tomatoes were only found in North and South America, and they never existed in Europe and Asia before they brought them there. And so that's an important point, is that every species has a place where it's indigenous to, and some places in the world have a whole lot of species which are only found in that location, and those species are then called endemic. So a species is endemic to a place if it's not found anywhere else in the world. What's interesting about that is that sort of shows how evolution can have happened in different places in different ways, and why those animals and plants would be in, and fungi would be in those places, and only those places. So what is evolution anyway? Evolution in the scientific sense means a genetic change in a species over time. So in principle, this is how evolution works in the most general sense, without applying it to a specific organism or population of organisms, because it's only populations which evolve. Evolution functions by a balance between two forces. It functions between the force of natural selection and the force of diversification. Okay? And these two forces are opposing each other. Okay? These two forces are opposing each other, so here we have a population which is very diverse, yes? And then there's a spectrum and things that are not very diverse, so they're all the same. So you have this balance where somewhere in the middle they meet, and they become a certain quantity of diversity. In this place is the place where the organism is most suited to its environment. So you see all over the place organisms which are very, very good at doing the job that they're supposed to do in order to survive. And that comes as a result of this balance between these two forces, and that's the place where the organism lies. Okay, there is actually a third force, and that force is the force of drift. When things drift, they may drift away from being fit to their environment, or they may drift towards it, or it may be something for which it has no effect on whether they survive or don't survive. And so if you have a population over time becomes a new generation, and then the old ones die off and the new generation reproduces and has another generation. The number of individuals with the trait is going to affect the number of individuals in the next generation that have the trait. And so there's kind of a reinforcement loop where the more individuals that have it, the more likely that there will be more the next time. And so over time, this will go up and down, and eventually will go either to one side or to the other side. Okay? But most of them will reach either nobody has that trait or everybody has that trait. And so if you have two groups of a population and separate them, one group might randomly go here and another group might randomly go here. And that would create a difference between those two populations, which wasn't necessarily a result of natural selection. So what evolution does is it makes a match, like pieces of a puzzle, between the organism and the organism's environment. If there's a change in the environment, that means there will be a change in the organism. If there is a rock on a hill, and that rock is rolling down the hill, there will be like a path, like a trail on the hill, where it has been rolling down. And if a group of individuals in a population are not, and some of them are not very suited to that environment, that population is going to evolve so that they're more suited to that environment, okay? And that's them rolling down the hill, okay? But that rock is not trying to roll down the hill. That rock is only experiencing the force that is natural and going in the direction that that force pulls it, okay? And now we might see a rock here and a path here that it has been going down, and we might say, oh, that's just circumstantial evidence. You can't say that that rock was necessarily the one that made that path. Maybe this was all just a frame-up job, and that really this rock, you know, fell from space and now it's there, you know, and that this other thing was created by something else. And yes, that could happen, yes. Science can't say definitely, okay, this is proof that this happened. No, it's just saying this is the best explanation. Okay, so yes, maybe it did fall from space, but that's not as simple of an explanation as just saying it rolled down the hill. Alright, these are the mistakes that a lot of people make about evolution. If the environment changes so that the organism is actually weaker, right, that doesn't mean that they're devolving. They're still evolving. Okay, they're just evolving to better suit the environment they're in. A lot of people say, well, nowadays people are, you know, less physically athletic than they used to be, less physically fit than they used to be. But when Darwin used the term, you know, the fittest, only the fittest survive, he's not talking about physically fit. He's talking about that fit between the environment and the organism. So if we happen to now be living in a world where, as humans, those traits are not as important to survival and reproduction, then that's what is happening, and we are still evolving to match the environment that we're in. And that goes for any organism which is in any environment. Another mistake that people make about evolution is they think that humans evolved from gorillas. This is actually wrong. We evolved from gorillas because this was a gorilla, but no, this here was something else. And this here was something else, like say this is a mouse. Right? There was something else that wasn't a gorilla and wasn't a mouse that they both evolved from. And there was something else, you know, here, this was a fish, right? Right? This thing was neither fish nor mouse. This was some other species that existed in the past, okay? Each of these is the end result of all kinds of other species which existed in the long past, and we'll get into the long past next time. Another mistake that people make is they think that individuals evolve, that's individual organisms evolve. So you have like a giraffe, right, and the giraffe stretches his neck, and over his lifetime he stretched his neck so much that when he has children, those children have longer necks. That is incorrect. You cannot, over your lifetime, adapt and then have those adaptations affect your children. Like if you were a parent and you got a tattoo, your child would not be born with that tattoo. The genetic information which is passed to your children is already there. Okay? The way that evolution works is there are a lot of giraffes, okay, and some of them happen to already have long necks, and the other ones don't reproduce. That's how evolution works. It's not one just stretching his neck. I hope that sums up how evolution works in a short enough video. And I know that I am not necessarily an expert in all this, and I'll try to give you some links to other like resources that are experts. In college, I was a computer science major. I wasn't a biology major. I did take biology, and I have read a lot of books about evolution, but it doesn't necessarily make me an expert. But yeah. See you next time. Everything that is the way it is the way it is because of the way that things were in the past.